Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ben Yetman from Penn-Based Solutions, and thanks for joining us this afternoon for our Smarter Emergency Planning webinar. It's just a minute or two after 3 o'clock, so I guess we can start with some introductions as other folks continue to join us. We've got about 30 to 40 minutes of content here today. I want to make sure we have some time for questions at the end, so as I'm walking through the webinar, please feel free to add any questions you might have through the GoToWebinar interface, and we'll make sure to get to those at the end. So just to help you put a face to the voice today, I'm Ben Yetman. I'm the Director of Solutions Development here at Penn Bay, and I'm based in New York City. My background, I've had the privilege of working with the emergency management community over the past decade or so, and most of the tools that you're seeing today are near and dear to my heart as I've helped develop them over time. So I think a couple minutes after the hour, let's go ahead and jump in, and we'll hopefully get lots of questions from those that join late. So welcome, everyone. We're here today to share with you some new tools that we've developed to support smarter emergency management in our schools. And as we've all witnessed in recent years, our school environments face an extremely wide array of threats. And due to that, our planning processes have really grown to address all of them, any incident, any time. So all hazard planning has really never been more important. And let me just start off today by saying you as representatives of your schools and police departments, whatever planning efforts you're already doing in your schools, our hats off to you. Well done. And to be clear today, we're not here to share ways to replace what you're already doing. We're actually here today to show you how to leverage some new tools to supplement what you're already doing and really extend your current planning processes to be more efficient and better coordinated at the local planning level. We've talked to folks at school districts really across the country, and one thing we hear over and over again is how tight budgets are. So really today, the theme is how to do more with less, how to leverage new technology to really do more with the resources you have. So I guess we can start today really with a current state of school emergency pre-planning. And this report came out earlier this fall and got a fair amount of attention. It's really the current state of emergency planning state to state. And it's a scorecard that went through and rated states by the plans that they require. Now, there are sort of two things to point out here. This particular report included daycare, so it may be a little bit skewed to what we normally would think about. But it is a little surprising when you look at the all-hazard emergency planning requirements that there are still quite a few states and the District of Columbia that are lacking. I guess we should also point out that just because a state has those requirements doesn't mean that they're all being met at every school. But what I can tell you is any school across the country that's not actively creating and managing emergency plans, they're not omitting that process because they don't care, but because it takes a huge amount of time and resources, a lot of folks just don't have. So while this particular report card made quite a stir, the good news is there are a lot of resources, and this is sort of a backdrop to stuff that you folks probably already know well. There's lots of great resources to help schools down the path of planning, really starting at the national guidance level. So we have strong guidance from FEMA, DHS, DOE, and online and offline training courses to get people familiar with the process, how to create strong emergency pre-plans, what it means to understand and operate within NIMS and ICS. If you've seen any of these sample emergency plans, we'll open up one here real quick. These are great documents, very comprehensive and really do cover all hazards from and all stages really of emergency management. So once we go from the federal level, really the next level where this comes into play is at the state level. Now, most states already provide some kind of guidance on the creation of emergency operation plans. And these are usually the plan elements that are required by law in the state or the minimum requirements that are suggested, oftentimes training resources, and in certain cases, submittal process or tools to use to submit that. But this is really where we see a bit of a divergence state to state, as many states approach this differently and provide different kinds of requirements and legislation. So some states are focused more on certain parts of pre-planning. A great example is the state of Ohio that's been very proactive about adding floor plans into their emergency planning process. So the State Attorney General, Mike DeWine, has been very vocal about that in particular for the state of Ohio, and even provides a portal to submit those to his office and back out to law enforcement. So even though these guidelines and regulations exist at the state level, a lot of times they still suffer from the same lack of resources and time, in that it usually happens once a year, and sometimes this information is out of date. But where the process really starts for our conversation today is where in my eyes, the most valuable planning process happens, which is at the local level, all the way down here at the school site level within a district, really the community planning process. So once we get down through our national response through state, even city or county and district, we get to a place where plans are actually created through a community. This involves the faculty of individual school. This involves local fire, local EMS, members and businesses of the community, law enforcement. And this is where that planning process, that really valuable planning process, is carried out. And while those plans are focused on local sites, they also do have a need to sort of reach back up the hierarchy, back up through the incident command system and also NIMS. So really, we're talking today about what you folks do on a day-to-day basis, which is at the site level, or maybe you're sitting here at the district level overseeing folks at the site level. But this planning process that ensures that you have accurate, actionable, all hazards pre-plans for your school environments. And this process is of critical importance and something that a lot of communities are doing very well, and something that a lot of other communities have challenges around, some of which we'll look at right now. There's certainly no shortage of challenges around creating school-centric emergency pre-plans, and I'm sure you're all very familiar with these. First off, we have huge blind spots in the built environment. And school settings inherently include buildings which are often very difficult from an emergency response perspective. But since students and teachers spend most of their days indoors, these buildings are really critical to our planning processes. And most of the guidance we get, federal, state, and other, really stop at the building footprint. So it's planning down to the building. And while that's very important from a security pre-plan perspective, if we're looking at different types of incident plans, being able to understand what's inside and eliminate those blind spots is a real challenge. So floor plans are hugely important, but creating and managing them can be very difficult and time-consuming. Second thing, from a law enforcement perspective, there's always a need and a want for better tactical data at both the site and the building level. So being able to understand indoors, being able to understand key elements at the site level, utility shutoffs, tactical spherical imagery, access to any other intelligence assets. That's something that usually doesn't get involved in the creation of a baseline pre-plan. It's just a lot of detail and a lot of effort to capture that data. A challenge we see across the board is just the maintenance and the update of information within the pre-plan. This is a challenge we've seen everywhere we've gone. Most plans are updated the first couple weeks of school. When you've got a new school year ahead of you, a little bit of breathing room, and you're updating contacts and review processes in your hard copy documents or your PDFs. But one thing that we've seen again and again is trying to keep the site layouts and other elements up to date, where you may have construction, you may have temporary classrooms that have moved, you may have new assignment, you may have alterations to buildings. It's a lot of work to keep those up, and keeping the plans current year to year can be a challenge sometimes, let alone within the year. Another challenge is around information sharing. Now, the information in our emergency pre-plans can be extremely sensitive. We're talking about floor plans, we're talking about utilities, we're talking about a whole bunch of very sensitive data, which needs to be consumed by a bunch of different organizations in the planning process and in a response. So there's a need for on-site printed copies, hard copies, there's a need for digital access, and oftentimes we hear a challenge of sharing that securely between local law enforcement, between other planning stakeholders, between the district, so rolling up all school sites to a district that may have a couple hundred sites, or even at the state level, rolling up potentially thousands of sites and site plans securely to state stakeholders for review and support. So the whole process of creating a framework for securely sharing is a major challenge for a lot of different folks. And the last challenge I just wanted to touch on briefly is probably the biggest. It's budgeting and resourcing. The availability of grants and excess budget to help support these processes is extremely low. And I pull up this last school image because this is actually where I went to school. This is where my mom teaches, and I can tell you with 20 some odd years of experience that they've always been budget challenged. They've always had shoestring budgets, and unfortunately the emergency planning process is one of those things that feels that constraint. So back to our original theme of the day, budget and resource being scarce, it's really about how can we do more with less. So we took all of those different challenges and started developing some smarter planning concepts to build out in tools. And I'll run through those quickly, and then we'll just jump into some live demos to look at the tools in action. The first concept is to do this correctly, it's not about replacing any of the current processes or documentation or plans. It's really about extending and enhancing and supplementing those processes. And just like incident command system doesn't use codes, it communicates things in plain language. Similarly, we look at sort of a standard visual vocabulary, which means most of what you're seeing today is map-based or site plan-based. And so similarly, we seek to use a plain visual indicator to communicate so that standard visual vocabulary can go from site to site across a district or across districts to a state, and everybody still understands the core components. The second thing that is front and center for us is eliminating the blind spots and enabling the addition of tactical data indoors and outdoors, above ground and below ground. So by eliminating blind spots, really focused on buildings and supporting the tactical creation, data creation for tactical layers indoors, as well as blind spots underground, most of it being utilities focused. We realize that along with the budget constraints, budget for training and also learning curve needs to be as as simple as possible. So these tools have to be something that are easy to create and also easy to maintain. It needs to be something that has a very, very low learning curve. It's one thing to comb through a 250-page emergency pre-plan document and make an update, but it's another thing to pull up a map and change the location of a rally point or update the name of a rally point. Maps are very intuitive, and visually updating them is inherently easy. And then the last thing we started to build out was the sharing and collaboration frameworks, really trying to create a robust framework for encapsulating that local planning, collaborative planning process for all hazards pre-plans. So this means creating something that's secure and role-based so that different roles may have the ability to create new plans, create features, to edit, update, approve, or maybe review, and the ability to share all that data securely between those different groups. So some groups may have view only, some groups may be able to create, edit, and delete. Some groups may just be involved in reviewing. So to get into some of the tools today, we've developed a tool called the InVision Secure School Safety Portal. Now this is a tool that lives in the cloud, so it's deployed off-site, and based on all the planning and the functional principles we just covered, this comes through your web browser, no install required, and allows you to really do all the planning functions that we just described. So if we look at it from an organizational standpoint, this one resource that lives hosted in the cloud can be accessed by different members of your planning groups. So like your principal at a school level can log in, go to their site, and create and update emergency plans. A district admin can log in and see all of the sites for a particular district and maybe review plans, approve plans, maybe update status. And then law enforcement, public safety, fire EMS has the ability to read plans or view plans, and in some cases maybe even edit certain layers. Maybe they want to, based on their own site visits, add locations of certain fire safety assets. So there's the ability to securely access this one resource for many different organizational groups and roles. And we do so in a secure way over SSL and through the web. So we'll jump out now and take a look at the tool in action, and I'll walk you through how this planning process actually works using some live software here. To access this tool, you open up a web browser. And when we do so, we don't need to install anything, no desktop software. We can log in, and here I'm going to start by logging in as a school administrator, so let's say as a principal. And what's going to load is some sample data. This is actually for the Boston Public School District. And we'll look at a couple different functions of the tool here. Hopefully you can all see this well. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger. So the first thing you'll notice is we have a bunch of different locations on the map. All of these different blue dots are actually sites where we may have a school consisting of one building or multiple buildings. And we can choose to interact with these sites. If we select any of these sites, we can get some quick information about what this site is. Here we can see Gardner Elementary. And we can also see some really quick links to documents or other systems that have information about that particular site. So if we wanted to, say, open emergency contacts for Gardner Elementary, we can do that with one click, and that'll pop open our emergency contacts, so we can quickly see that stuff. We can also interact at a sort of a district level through this hierarchy. So if we wanted to see all of these different locations and we're working at a district, we can actually drill down from a given site or a given campus into the individual buildings on a campus. And for each of these, you can see how many floors they have, and we can actually drill down into each floor. I'm going to go ahead and jump to this particular campus, and I'll switch our base map here so we can see it with some aerial imagery behind it. So for this particular campus, we can see we have a handful of buildings, about 7 buildings, and we can go through each of those. We also have a couple links that we've created to other systems. Now, if you have editor permissions, one of the first things you can do for each of your sites is actually open up and link other documents or attachments or links out to other systems. So if I go here and create a link, it'll actually allow me to have links out to things like maybe an oblique view from Bing, or maybe if we have pictometry, other resources and imagery. So that initial link view lets you sort of customize for your own interests and pull up information very quickly for site levels related to what you're interested in. So I'll jump here to look for buildings. I'll search for building 7. And here we can see that on a particular campus, Madison Park, we have building 7. Anytime you get down to a building level, you can see there are a number of floors for this building, and we can actually select the floor that we're interested in, and it'll turn that floor on. Now, it may be that we don't have any data for that floor currently, and actually this building I don't think we do. But if we have floor plans on our own hard drives, or we have data from our own schools, if users are enabled, they can actually add that data to the map. And I'll show you what that looks like really quickly here. You can take an existing drawing and you can add it through this method. So we say upload a floor plan image. I'm going to browse on my local hard drive to find where that emergency plan is. Let's say this is the floor plan layout for that particular floor. I say which plan we want it to be related to, and this is our 2013 floor plan. And what this is going to do is actually upload that floor plan from my local computer into the cloud. And what we need to do is just rotate and scale it to fit the building layout. So if you notice, we're not skewing it, we're really just resizing and rotating until it fits the building footprint. And if you look now, that is actually our new floor plan layout for that building. So you can import CAD directly, you can take stuff you might already have and add it. Whichever way you start, this is one way to add that data and eliminate blind spots indoors. And once we do that, there's a bunch of different ways we can start to build our plans around those building interiors. So now I'm going to come in and log in as let's say a district admin. Now the district admin may have a need to go to a particular site, review any of the plans created to date, maybe add a feature, update a feature, and start the review process. So here we'll go back to that same facility site. We'll search for Madison. We'll jump down to Madison Park. We'll turn on our imagery. And what's a little different this time is because we're an administrator, we can actually turn on and review any of our plans. So over here, this is our plan management tool. And when we select our type of plan, here we're going to look at all of our emergency pre-plans. We can go and we can see there's actually 4 pre-plans that have been created and are being worked on. We have our 2013 emergency operations plan, which is the one I'm going to turn on and show. So when I click that, it actually turns on all the different features related to that plan. And I'll go to the legend here so you can see we have our rally locations. We've got locations of hazmat. We've got our fire alarm control systems, emergency utility shutoff, access hazards, riser diagrams, Knox boxes. These are really all of our plan elements that for this type of plan are going to participate. So pretty simply, we can actually go through, find the template that we want to add. Let's say to begin with, we want to add a location of hazmat. We have a lab in Building 4 that we want to make sure has a hazmat point. Because we know that's indoors, you'll notice that it already says it detected that this is building floor we've placed it on, and now we just need to select the floor. So if I select floor 2, that actually pulls up the floor plan we just geo-referenced, and it lets us sort of fine-tune where that hazmat is. We click Save, and now that is a permanent member of our plan. We could go on and start adding other things for this floor. Say we wanted to add staircases. Come over here and we'll add, say, a staircase for this area. Since we're already on floor 2, it automatically knows what floor we're on. If we go here, we can start adding fire extinguishers or update locations of fire extinguishers. Using this simple set of tools, it really is as simple as click an icon and show the corresponding location on the map. And one of the other things you'll notice is as we start doing things outdoors, if we wanted to create a new rally zone, we can actually relate these rally zones to features indoors. So if we want to create a rally zone right here, save that, you can see that it actually allows us to relate that rally zone back to building and floor so that we know this rally zone was related to building 7 or maybe building 4. So we can create relationships between what rally zones correspond to what buildings and what different features participate in different plans. So we can add any of these features and continue to build out these plans. We can also add attachments to our plans. So if we wanted to add a finished hard copy emergency contacts list, I can browse, I can pick it, and I can add that. And any of these attachments stay with the plan throughout its lifetime, and if you want to open any of them up, they're right there and easy to open, so anybody that has permissions can see and download them. In addition to attachments, we can also add comments about the plan. So here I can see that a public safety user left a comment that this was the final approved for 2013. And we could add a comment since we logged in as district admin saying need updates for 2014. And that comment will stay with this particular plan as we go through the process. So you really can get into an iterative process here with both local school personnel, with folks at districts, and most importantly, folks with public safety. So that law enforcement and fire can come in, review features, maybe add their own features in certain cases, and confirm the plan for the particular type of incident. There are a couple other really interesting workflow processes here that I'll point out really quickly. You'll notice at the plan level, we have a couple different actions that we can do. So when we get our plan to a point where it's complete, we can actually submit that plan, and this fires off notifications to plan reviewers that they need to come in and check the plan for completeness. We can choose to edit or update it. We can also choose to close it. So if we go into 2014, We can close our plan from 2013. If it doesn't go away, we can always go back and review it, but it's not an open, active plan at that point. So the planning process gets encapsulated inside these particular plans, and you can create, if you have permissions, you can easily create a new plan. So if we need to do a 2014 shelter in place, we can create a new plan, and now we can start adding features to that 2014 shelter in place plan. Maybe that we want to start with, well, really any of these features. Maybe start with some of our shut-off locations. So we can go through and create multiple plans per site. And one of the things you want to do at some point along the way is also print. So we can take these pre-plans, we can look at different pre-plans. Say we want to go here and do a fire safety plan. We can actually take that and create a digital copy. What that'll do is create a PDF, or we can save a snapshot of it in time as an attachment back to one of the plans. A couple other quick things I'll show just on the design side. We spent a lot of time thinking through how best to display tactical information intuitively, stuff that might be in buildings and things that might be hard to find. So what you'll notice here is, even though we don't have any floors turned on for these buildings, we can still see, kind of grayed out, that there are planning elements inside. And we can actually select and manually try to find what floor it's on, or we can, if we click on one of those elements, it'll actually open the correct floor. Another thing we can do is look at a given floor level across the entire set of buildings of the whole campus. So if we go and look at all the entry floors here, we can see our fire command stations, we can see a whole bunch of different elements, and we can go up to the second floor, we could go up to the third floor, and continue moving throughout the buildings, really. So from a single site plan, we can move out to all the way out to a district and see plans for all of our district locations and drill down. We can access quick information without having to go into the district level. So if we wanted to just look at a quick EOP checklist, we can pull up and review previous plans, and we can also print and save these offline. One other thing that we've just been working on recently is this concept of event plans. So we heard from a number of schools that in addition to their emergency planning efforts, oftentimes they'll have a special event. They'll have commencement, or they'll have a visit from a senator. And so there are multiple kinds of plans that we could create here, each of which has different features. The event pre-plans may have your where ICS is going to be your medical triage or your security parameters. So these are really all templates that you can choose to add additional templates on top of to help encapsulate all your emergency planning. So I'll go back and talk briefly to wrap things up about how we deliver this set of tools to school districts, local public safety, and really just school planning users. Like I said, this is all hosted in the cloud, so there's no need for technology investment on your end. It's licensed annually by editor users. So each user that interacts and creates and updates plans per year is looking at about a $240 user license. There is, depending on how big you are on security requirements, there's an annual security cost that's right in and around $8,000. And you have all the tools here to add your own data, to build out your own plans, to upload your existing floor plans or relate to other systems. If you need help we're always happy to support folks both in adding CAD data or core GIS data. So there are many ways to populate the system once you get it. One other thing to any other mapping geeks out there, happy GIS Day for those of you who know it is. Happy day, and appreciate you all sharing it with us. So if you have any additional questions or thoughts or need to learn more, please feel free to contact me or any of the other folks at Penn Bay. And really appreciate your time this afternoon. Thanks and enjoy.